What's going on, guys? Eric Werlin here, and today I want to talk to you guys about best render settings for exporting your videos for YouTube and for any other social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Vimeo. Now, there's tons of other videos already out there that talk about, put this to this, put this number in here, put this dial here, yada, yada, yada. And while that's great and all, and I'm going to show you guys my render settings for YouTube, it's also really good to know why those particular numbers are used, or the concept and a little bit more in depth that I want to go into render settings and why we use them, different settings and best practices, let's say. So when it comes to different social media sites, a lot of them have different settings and different optimizations. So for instance, we're going to talk a little bit about YouTube. Now, YouTube already has its specified, recommended video settings and bit rates and resolutions and all that on their website. And I'm going to post that for you guys down below in the description. There will be a link there that has all this information there. And it'll also have a website that has all this information for all of the other social media sites. So no matter where you want to post your content, you can optimize your videos for those specific websites. But specifically when it comes to YouTube, it has, its recommended settings. Now, when you go to upload your video to YouTube, it's going to compress your videos. Doesn't matter if it's a 10 gig file or a 50 megabyte file. YouTube is going to apply compression to it. There's no way around that. But one thing that you can do that will really drastically help is do some compression on your side first. So even though YouTube applies compression to all videos that get uploaded to it, it also varies how much compression it's going to add based on the specifications and the compression that your video already has. So let's say you're uploading a 10 gig file versus a 1 gig file. If that 1 gig file is more optimized and already meets its settings a lot closer, it's going to compress that video a lot less than if you have the highest quality possible, 10 gigabyte video, and it has to apply a ton of compression to it to save space, because 10 gigs for a video is a lot of space for one video. So let's jump into Davinci Resolve, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what settings I use and how I go about, exporting my videos out. Alright guys, so now we're on the deliver page in Davinci Resolve. So here are the best settings to go by, straight out of the gate. If you go up here on the top left, you'll see you already have YouTube, Vimeo, H.264 Master, and a few other options. You don't have to worry about these. These are all for exporting to other programs. What we want to focus on is this one, YouTube. So it says 1080p right off the bat, and if your project is 1080p, then you're all set. But if you click this little drop down arrow right here, you'll have three different options: 720p, 1080p, or 2160p, which is also 4K. So let's go with 4K because I mostly shoot on the Blackmagic Pocket, and that has 4K capabilities. But if you don't, you can also stick with 1080p and use more or less the same settings. Not much is going to change other than the resolution and the bitrate. So let's go with that. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going to come down here to formats. Now we have QuickTime, we have Codec of H.264, and we have Encoder, which is currently set to native. Now, before we get too much into this, I'm going to go to the YouTube website and read directly from them so you guys can see. These are their recommended upload encoding settings. So by following these, you're going to ensure that your video that you upload is not only the highest quality that YouTube will allow, but also it'll make sure that your upload times are as short as possible, while maintaining that YouTube applies less compression to your videos, which again, in turn, will make your videos higher quality. So first off is the container, is the MP4. Now, if you don't upload an MP4, let's say you upload an MOV file, YouTube will still convert it, but if which is going to take more time, but if you upload an MP4 right off the bat, that's one less thing that YouTube has to do for you. So therefore your upload time, again, will be faster. Audio is AAC, LC. Channels, stereo or all the way up to 5.1. And sample rate of audio But again, I usually don't pay too much attention to this because most audio will come out pretty high quality. Video codec is H.264, progressive scan, so you don't want interlace, which if you're uploading in 2019 or if you're watching this a few years from now or whenever, pretty much no video program is going to be outputting in interlace, so you don't really have to worry about that. Profile high, yada yada yada. This is the important bit. Variable bitrate. Like I said before, you have variable bitrate and you have constant bitrate. Now the difference between that is it'll compress and output and have your bitrate be different based on what's going on in your video. So if you just have, a video of, let's say, a building that you don't have a lot of movement or action, you don't need your bitrate to be as high. You don't need as much information in your video to showcase that because it's a very simple video. It's not showing much. But if you have the cameras constantly moving or you're filming, let's say, the ocean or, people or a crowd of people, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of change from one frame to the next. Therefore, your bitrate, the amount of information in your video, is going to go up. So that's one thing you got to make sure when you export out, you want to try to keep it on variable bitrate if you have that option. Frame rate, pretty much YouTube can accept just about anything from 24, 25, 30, all the way to 60. Now, here are the two important things. Bit rates. Again, as I'm talking about bit rates, I'm talking about it a lot because it's really important. YouTube really compresses videos a lot based on the bit rate. So if you're exporting 4K, in standard, dynamic range, you're not uploading HDR, these are your bit rates to stick with. If you're sticking within this bit rate, you're going to have a lot less compression on your videos, and you're going to have faster upload times, and you're going to be having faster encoding times because YouTube doesn't have to work as hard to make sure your videos fit the specifications for their platform. So 35 to 45 megabits per second, 2K is 16, 1080p is 8 megabits. So if you're exporting out a 1080p video at, let's say, 30 megabits per second, it doesn't matter how high it is or how good it looks. YouTube is going to compress it down to this 8. So 720p is 5, and if you're exporting out lower, it gets lower. So that's really important to pay attention to. And resolution, again, it prefers 16 by 9. So if you're exporting out any other resolution, it's going to get cropped and your video is going to look weird. So based on those settings, we can make our adjustments in Davinci. So I'm going to put my format to MP4, codec is H.264, encoder, I'm putting that to NVIDIA because I have an NVIDIA graphics card, and that's going to make my render go faster because instead of using mostly the CPU, it's going to use the GPU. 34, 2160, Ultra HD, frame rate 24. Now here's where that bitrate comes in. Usually it's set to automatic and it's going to export out at the best quality, the highest possible. But remember, we don't want that. We're going to restrict to. Now by default, this is set to 10,000 kilobits per second, which 1,000 kilobits equals 1 megabit. So if we go back to the YouTube settings, the highest is 45 megabits per second. So we're going to take this 10 and we're going to type in 45,000. So this is going to export out the highest quality video right up to, what YouTube will, allow. So we don't have to work as hard. Go to the advanced settings, keep it on square. That means that it's going to be a 1-for-1 for, this resolution. For data levels, I like to go to full because then it's going to give you as much data in that picture as possible without going over this limit. So that's it. That's really about it. And then up here, we want to go to audio, export audio, ACC, 192 kilobits per second, 16-bit. Make sure that's on stereo. That's perfect. And then we can go through and you can either name your files or wherever you're going to export this to. So I would call this, let's say, test video for YouTube. Choose your location, and then all you have to do is hit add to render queue. It's going to show up over here, and then just click start render. And that's all there is to it. It's that simple. But be sure to make sure, you follow these specs, because that's what's going to give you the greatest video quality versus the size and give you the fastest upload speed. Because if you have a slower internet connection, it's going to take longer if you're exporting out a super high quality 10 gig video versus 1 gig, like I said. Now, if you have a slower internet connection, you still want to upload faster, but you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of quality, then go more towards the smaller end, so 35,000 kilobits per second or 35 megabits per second. Now, these are the same settings. You can use these same concepts in any editing software. So whether it's Premiere, Davinci, or Final Cut Pro, all of these are going to be the same. You want to use these same concepts. So that's all I had for you guys. So let's get back. Now, those are the render settings that I use when I export out of Davinci Resolve. But again, these same settings can be applied whether you're using Premiere Pro, Final Cut, I'm assuming iMovie, pretty much almost any video editing software. You can use these same concepts and just make sure that you're meeting YouTube's specifications and what they recommend you upload at, depending on the quality of your video and the length and the resolution and all the the little aspects of your guys' videos. So I hope you guys found this video useful. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful and you found this information good and helpful. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. I've got a lot more content coming out that I'm really excited to share with you guys. A lot more videos about Davinci and editing and talking about cameras, and I've got a bunch of music videos that I shot recently that I can't wait to show you guys. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys later.